Hi, it's Kyle Wilkie here. I'm doing my video on school culture. I used Todd Whitaker's What Great Principals Do Differently as my resource. The first question I'm going to answer is, what is school culture? School culture, according to Todd Whitaker, is a collection of beliefs and values that influences school programs and practices or policies. Um, so he refers to that as a driving force, and I very much so agree with that. Um, because I think that for a leader to be effective, they first have to know people as people. And I think it was, I can't remember who talked about people as people from their post. I can go back and look, but my tab's not popping up. So they said something about knowing people, and I think that's your very most important thing um, to do whenever you're a leader, or whether you're leading a classroom or leading a school. You have to know the individuals in that classroom as people before you can know them as students or as colleagues or as subordinates. So that works for a classroom. It's one of the first things I do at the beginning of the school year is get to know my students, build those relationships. Then I expect them to do the same with their peers because I think that my classroom will not be as successful with discussions and quality discussions and being able to respectfully argue about different viewpoints. My classroom would not work if we did not know each other as people. One of the things that I started doing this year that I really liked was giving personality tests at the beginning of the year, and I think that did a great job of helping my students to understand their peers and why they are the way they are, or maybe some better understanding on how they can work with them in a group, so that they can watch out for maybe certain personality types, butting heads, or things like that. And I think that effective leaders do that with their staff as well, whether they do it intentionally um, and you know that they're doing it, or whether they kind of just give opportunities to get to know the staff without you maybe realizing that's what they're doing. So that's something that I think is very important is school culture, and I think that immediately when you walk in the doors of a school, you can pick up on that culture because the culture reflects on the people in that building, and it's really easy to pick up if that's a negative school culture. What role does culture play in leadership? I've kind of touched on that, but I think that it's very, very important for the leader to establish the norms and what that culture is going to be, but also take feedback from the teachers as what they think that should be as well, because they're the ones on the front lines. They see students in and out throughout the day and what they need and what they don't need, as far as maybe help in classes or just things that they have to maybe deal with at home that lots of teachers are seeing. So it's that leader's decision to ultimately influence the decisions of that school and make sure that what they're doing is going to help change that culture. I think culture is really neat because I've seen this change in my school over the past 3 years that I've been there. There's been a lot of change in staff, and the individuals that have left, some of them were maybe kind of over teaching because they had just done it for a while, or maybe it wasn't really where um, they felt their passion was. And those teachers have left, and since we've gotten in some new teachers who have been just great in helping to change that school culture around. And it's really been nice having more teachers work together as a team and have those common goals of what they really want the school to be and how they want the kids to act in the school. Because then we're able to be consistent from classroom to classroom, and it's not just me fighting the battle in my classroom or the teacher next door fighting that battle in our classroom. We're all working together as a team to establish that, and I think that it's the leader's job um, to help make sure that that happens. One thing that I thought was good that Todd Whitaker said was that programs are not solutions. So we can't just say that we have an advisory program and call that our solution to helping students become more respectful using character education, because anyone could say that that's what's going to happen. So you have to not only put those programs in there, but you have to make sure that what's happening in those programs is actually um, going with your goal of what you're trying to accomplish. One other thing that I think was good that Todd Whitaker talked about was how rewards. He kind of did the whole reward debate, and I think that that's something as a teacher I don't really do too much. I found that students always just wanted the rewards of candy. oh, we should get a piece of candy, Mr. Wilkie, because we finished our bell ringer. And I'm like, wait a second. So you did what you were supposed to do when you came in here, but now you want a piece of candy? Why is that? And whenever I posed that question to them, they're like, oh, yeah, I guess you're right. I should have done that anyway. So I said, I'll give you guys candy, but it's not going to be because you did something you're supposed to do. It's just going to be just because. So that's kind of my take on rewards for those sorts of things. And I think that Todd Whitaker did a good job of explaining how that rewards can be a good thing or a bad thing. One other thing that I want to leave with is a couple questions. I think it was Robert Marzano has in his book, and it's what is the extent of my ability to influence this action, and what does this have on student achievement, or what does this action have on student achievement? So I think that's something that teachers and leaders can always be asking themselves to make sure that the things that they're doing in their buildings or in their classrooms are effective for the students and ultimately play a role in that culture, in developing that school culture. I think that's all that I have for this one, so thank you, and I'll see you on the next video.